There are millions of people on the edge of their seat right now waiting for their chance to play Wuthering Waves, and rightfully so. With what's happening with Genshin Impact right now, there are a lot of people, players and content creators alike, including me, looking to jump ship to another open world gacha game, and Wuthering Waves is at the front of their radar. However, with all the momentum that Kuro Games has been able to create with Wuthering Waves, and the fact that there isn't much official information to go off of in terms of what to expect with the game, there's a glaring issue that can and will affect the success of the launch of Wuthering Waves. And that is overhyping and having unrealistic expectations. Now, there are many people who expect Wuthering Waves to be everything they wished Genshin Impact to be and more, challenging endgame combat being at the top of that list, which is something I want to address. I think there's a lot of people out there who think that Wuthering Waves will be an extremely difficult game to play, when that's simply not going to be the case. Listen, Wuthering Waves will not be a hardcore, challenging game that rivals the combat intensity of Dark Souls or Sekiro. It's just not. Sure, it has parry mechanics and perfect dodge mechanics, just like Sekiro and Dark Souls, but at the end of the day, it's a mobile game. There's no way Wuthering Waves will be anywhere near the difficulty of Sekiro or any of the Souls games. Will it be more challenging than Genshin Impact? 100%. Will it have endgame content? 100%. But will it rival the gameplay of the games with the most challenging combat systems in all of gaming? Absolutely not. Let's manage our expectations here. There's only so much you can do with games on a mobile device, especially a PvE mobile gacha game. The most challenging mobile gacha games have PvP aspects to them, such as PvP arenas, guild wars, etc., that put players against each other and make the game more competitive. However, from what we know so far, Wuthering Waves does not have any of that. Kuro Games has to cater to the mobile audience, and therefore they cannot make their game too difficult or else they risk losing the mobile market. Why do you think they revamped 90% of the story? Story matters the most to the casual community, and Kuro Games understands that. So don't go into this game thinking that it's going to be an absolute challenge, that it's going to be a really hard game that only like 50% of the player base will be able to complete. This is not the case. Like, it's a mobile gacha game. It's going to be more difficult than Genshin Impact, 100%, but it won't be that difficult that 50% of the player base won't be able to beat the bosses and stuff. It's just not. So, now will you be able to make Wuthering Waves a challenging game? Definitely. You can do it like no-hit boss runs, non-5-star no-hit boss runs, and speed runs, etc. Just like you can with any other game. And I'm sure there'll be many players who will play the game that way. But all I'm saying is, don't expect a super hardcore game by default, and don't go expecting to be praised for beating a boss because it's supposed to be like somewhat challenging. It's not gonna be like that. It's at the end of the day, it's a casual gacha game. It's not gonna be that challenging. Now, I will say though, over time, I think Wuthering Waves will become increasingly more difficult as people figure out the game's mechanics, and Kuro Games has to constantly make enemies more difficult to keep players enticed and feel challenged. At the same time though, players only really need to figure out a boss fight one time. Think about it. The first time you beat a challenging boss, it probably took a decent amount of tries. Think about it. Think of a game that you played with a really challenging boss. The first time you beat that boss, how many tries did it take? Probably took you a couple tries, right? But what about beating it a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time? It gets easier and easier. Now the question is, will Kuro Games be able to create a new challenging boss fights fast enough so that players aren't bored with the current boss rotation? If it takes Kuro Games 6 months to create a new boss, by the time the new boss comes out, players will most likely be bored with the current boss rotation and might even quit the game. So Kuro Games needs to figure out how to fill in that time, because bosses do take a lot of time to create, to figure out their attack patterns, what they'll look like, their mechanics, and that takes time, the animations, right? So they need something to fill in that time, maybe like a like an Infinite Abyss style event or boss rush event, stuff like that to fill in time. I'm sure they'll be able to figure that out. Another point I want to make is that I think a lot of players expect Wuthering Waves to have an insane combat system with crazy combos and hidden techniques. However, from the footage we have so far, the combat doesn't seem too crazy. I mean, it may be because all the footage we've seen has been in a controlled environment in the form of like media showcases with game journalists, which you know how good gaming journalists are at video games. Come on now. It was probably reduced for those showcases, but it seems that the unique aspect of the combat is the parrying, the perfect dodging, and the character switching aspects, rather than the overall attack moves like their normal attack chains and character abilities. For example, Jian only has 3 abilities in total, like 2 skills and his ultimate ability, and that's not a lot to create combos off of. And I will say though, from what we've seen so far, each 5-star character has a different playstyle than others. For example, like Jian again. Jian seems to be a more bruiser type character with his Resonance Liberation, his ultimate ability, giving him super armor and anti-stagger, while Yinlin's more of a mage type character with their puppets and lightning abilities. So while the combat system isn't too complex, you won't have like attack combos and hidden attack combos. All the characters have new playstyles and different playstyles to keep the game fresh. I want to say all this just so that people don't have the craziest expectations for the game. Wuthering Waves will definitely be a good game on release. But I want, I want this game to be successful. And people may not think that the game was good on release because of all the attention it's receiving and all the hype that it's receiving and all the expectations that it has before release. So it's like going to a restaurant that you've seen go viral on TikTok, only to go there, wait online for 2 hours, eat the food, and then say it's mid, Now, was the food, the question is like, was the food really mid? Or did the hype make the food mid, right? Did the fact that you have to wait in line for 2 hours make the food mid? Did the fact that all the people were talking about and saying how good it was raise your expectations and therefore it was harder to meet those expectations, right? Or was the food just genuinely bad? I don't really know. So yeah, I wanted to make this video to kind of, manage expectations, not overhype the game too much. Of course, I want to hype the game up because I think it's gonna be a great game. I think it's what a lot of players have been looking for a long time. But let's be realistic with our expectations here, and I just want the game to be as successful as possible on launch. So that's all I have to say. Like and sub if you enjoyed this video. Join the Discord if you want to talk more about Wuthering Waves. And yeah, I'll catch you all next time. Peace.